Let's bring in Sky's Alex Rossi now, who is in Zaporizhzhia. We were just bringing you those pictures of that coach arriving. 100 or so people leaving Mariupol on Sunday. They have arrived safely there. Alex, what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you it's been an extremely long journey and a difficult journey for these people to get here. You can see that there are a number of coaches here. They arrived here a few minutes ago. This is the reception centre in Zaporizhzhia, organised by the United Nations. Here they'll be registered and then hopefully they'll find places to stay after this. We can see people over here. They are still, some of them on the coaches getting off, but what a traumatic time these people have had. They've been inside the Azovstal steelworks, in some cases, since the invasion started. So more than 2 months they've been living underground, under constant bombardment. There are a network of tunnels under this Soviet-era steelworks, which has provided sanctuary, but as the course of the war, as the course of the invasion has gone on, it has or is turning into a tomb. Many of the families that have gathered here waiting for these people didn't think they would ever see this day, but it's here. Some of these people have managed to escape. You can see on that woman's face, she is relieved, but a terrible time, really, a really, really difficult time. There are, of course, fears, really. There are a number of people still trapped inside. We think at least a couple of hundred civilians. There are also fighters as well from the Ukraine military. The fear is they won't be able to get out. We are hearing reports that steelworks is now under constant shelling again. The fragile ceasefire, which started, this mission started on Friday, got some people out on Saturday and then into Sunday, and now we're here quite a long time afterwards. But the ceasefire has broken down now, so it isn't clear whether you'll be able to get more people out. Now, arriving here as well over the last day or so, last 24 hours, there have also been people who've, as a result of the ceasefire, been able to get out of the city of Mariupol. And they are bringing with them some really terrible stories of atrocities and terror inside that city. Much of it has been destroyed. It's really destroyed, obliterated beyond recognition in many places. I was speaking to one woman who was telling me that in the neighbourhood she lived in, you'd have apartment blocks, and then between those apartment blocks there would be cemeteries where people would have to bury their neighbours because they'd been killed in the fighting. So an extremely difficult time for the people of Mariupol. But there are still lots of people in the city, not just in Azovstal. The city's population before the war was about 450,000, possibly a bit more. We think there's about 100,000 people left in the city. But extraordinarily difficult for those people that remain.
And Alex, what happens to them now? They've been through so much to get there. We can see them talking to various people around them. Obviously, there's media there that want to hear their stories. But where do they go next?
Well, I think in many cases they'll go and stay with friends and family. Others will head abroad and become, as 5 million people have in this country, they will become refugees. You can see these people getting off now. They've got some of their things with them. But they'll be heading over here. We'll just move the camera around now and I'll show you. You can see in the background, you can see a tent over there. That will be a registration point where their details will be taken by the UN. They'll also be given, if they need it, some medical treatment there as well, and they can be given homes within Ukraine as well. But I think lots of people, it's quite an unnerving experience for lots of these people because they will be arriving here, but they won't really, in some cases, be knowing where exactly they are going at this point. So not only have they had to deal with the trauma of leaving Mariupol and the steelworks in some cases. I should point out that some of the people on this coach have been picked up on the way in the city as a result of the ceasefire. Not everybody that we're seeing here has been trapped inside the Azovstal steelworks. But they also now, of course, have the unknown in some cases of where exactly they will be staying. But you can see that there is a huge amount of interest in this story, press from all over the world. I mean, the world's attention really has been for the last few months on the city of Mariupol, and also, of course, on that steelwork where people are trapped inside. And we've seen some terrible pictures from inside that place that have been posted on social media. Civilians, fighters, in dire need of emergency medical treatment, people who've lost limbs, people with wounds that are gangrenous and have gone septic. And of course, they're not getting the attention and the aid they need. But here, we are seeing some people who have managed to get out. So in terms of Ukraine, this is being seen in many places really as a symbol of hope in what has been a really dark period for the country. But lots of people getting off, some of them fairly unsteady on their feet, uncertain, of course. I mean, it must be quite disorientating after the time they've had. Remember, of course, that the journey for these people, if they have left the Azovstal steelworks, would have started on Saturday. We saw pictures of people coming out of the rubble, extremely dangerous. Remember, they were only able to get out because there was this temporary ceasefire, and we've seen, and they will have know this too, we've seen these ceasefires break down all the time. So you'll be coming out of the steelworks, not knowing, of course, if the fighting is going to start again. Then they went on buses and moved to Russian-speaking occupied Ukraine, a place called Benjamin, where there is a camp where they were processed. One woman told me that while she was there, she had her possessions searched. She was also had to answer lots and lots of questions. The Russians, of course, want to make sure they're not prepared to let any of the fighters leave. She had her phone searched for pictures as well. Then they had to get to this point here, about 16 to 20 checkpoints. At times they were turned back, and it wasn't certain. It certainly wasn't clear yesterday, because we were here all day yesterday waiting for these people to arrive. It wasn't clear whether they'd make it at all. The agreement that has allowed this to happen, it was feared, could break down. We can just see some more people moving out now. We'll just walk over and show you inside the tents as well. This is, if we go over here, through these people here, I mean, huge amounts of. There's a woman here who you see, and she is overcome with emotion. A young baby she has in her arms. I don't know what her story is, but everybody here has a story of absolute horror and absolute terror. One woman I was speaking to yesterday who managed to get out of Mariupol showed me some pictures on her phone, and the entire neighbourhood where she lived had been destroyed. The place was just unrecognisable. You couldn't tell that it was the city. Now, at the beginning of the war, I was in Mariupol, and it was a prosperous city. It was really, an economic success story within Ukraine, but it has been completely destroyed. Now, the reason behind that, in terms of the strategy of the Russians, is that they want to build a land bridge to Crimea, which they managed to capture and then annex in 2014, and also establish supply routes to bolster their invading force across the south and east of the country. They're trying to take the Donbass region in eastern Ukraine at the moment. But you can see the people here. I mean, the expressions on their faces of relief, but you can also see the pain of what the last couple of months have been. I mean, it's been absolutely horrendous, really, really difficult time. But that journey is now at an end, or one phase of that journey is at an end. But inside those steelworks, I think everybody can remember what those pictures have been like. Absolutely horrendous, near constant bombardment, not just from the shelling, but also from the air as well. Another person I spoke to told me about the nature of the explosions. They learned to pick them up after a while. The shelling they could cope with, but the big bunker buster bombs, they didn't know whether the area that they were in, which they had felt safe in, would just simply collapse. They just didn't know whether they would get out alive at all. But you can see here, 100 or so people have managed to escape relief, but also pain and absolutely terrible memories of what they have been through.